Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, number 21, I believe. I've kind of lost track because I haven't been keeping record and or updating them onto the YouTubes and putting numbers behind them, but I do have all the raw files, so that's good. We'll keep it going. This Tech Talk Taco Tuesday is brought to you by Fuck You Racing. And I didn't say a bad word there because it's spelled differently. And we will bounce through. I got a little list of questions we're going to bounce through. I am going to answer your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions. The ones that were put up on our Facebook page, tagged onto the older YouTube videos, asked on Instagram even. And then I'll go with the ones that you guys throw up live in the chat room. Of course, San Felipe Ball will probably be there. And with 75% accuracy, give you a 35% correct answer 29% of the time, guaranteed. So the theme for this week's show is, I don't have a theme. I was out at the Tour Tech rally this past weekend. Cheers to Tour Tech for having me up. We did a bunch of adventure riding clinics and basically riding skills. Did a few demos, rode on some super awesome routes that they had put up for us here, and had a good time. And luckily, I got to stick around, and I'm still sticking around. And it just got done raining, so that's good for the ground. And then I'm gonna head on my trailer-equipped adventure motorcycle and ride back to California. No, where am I going? Nevada? I'm going back to Nevada, and I'm going to ride this. So check this out. That is a KTM 1090 with a trail tail on the back of it, so I can take all my stuff with me. So I think I'm going to try to stop on the way and go ride some regular dirt bikes with some friends, and we'll see how this stuff works out. So thanks for joining. Glad you guys are making it live. You guys make this a lot more fun because I don't like talking to a little cube with a camera sitting on top of it. It makes it actually feel like there's someone here. Heather is out shopping in the quaint little town that we're nearby. And John Perkins is watching from the deep middle of nowhere. And I watched a documentary on that place. So I think I know what you're talking about, but I probably don't. Right? We'll have you back on as a co-host one of these days soon. And we'll see how things work. Sounds good. That's good. Sound is great. Yep, 21. Cheers. Cheers to 21. Now I can have a beer live on camera. And I don't know if you saw the post we put up with that logo that Jerry Bernardo from Fuck You Racing drummed up. He showed me one with the Husaberg. Or no, the Husky logo. He made one out of the Husqvarna logo for his club, which is a kind of a strange club. It's like, I think you just get a sticker and run it on your bike or your helmet, and then eat pizza, which even though it's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, I'm eating pizza. And then you're in the club and just ride dirt bikes and then punish thieves who steal dirt bikes. That's some of the core methods. They have really cool t-shirts. And he showed me one with the Husqvarna logo on it. And I said, oh, Jerry, you need to make one with the Husaberg logo. And like 10 minutes later, he spit out some super awesome. You see it on the post that's leading up this thing. I wish I would have downloaded a photo and I'd show it to you on the camera right now. But you have to go to the Facebook page to see it. And that's what Jerry does. And if you need graphic design, you just tell him what you're thinking and he'll spit something out. And whether you like it or not, that's up to you. But he does a pretty good job. He designed some of my little logos and things that we use for our schools, and pretty cool. So thanks a lot, Jerry. Good to see you pop back up here. You're missing for a little while, and hope you Actually, you gotta dig through and listen to some of Jerry. He did some podcasts. I think he actually might have been on Pulp or something like that at one point or another. I don't remember where I heard him talking. And I've known Jerry from way back. We were competitors in the Incas Rally, where I think he tried to sabotage me, but I'm not really sure how. But we did spend one night staring at a ceiling fan in some seedy motel in Peru, someplace in the Amazon jungle, while there was moped races going on. But that's a long story. I'll try to talk about that less. And but I've known him since he was a host on ESPN. Was it Moto World? Some of the shows, he was like kind of the on-ground correspondent before there was live coverage of stuff, when they would be doing coverage of races that I was in, like the Nevada Rally, and you'd have to wait a month for it to get put onto television. And he had his definitely own unique style. Sometimes misunderstood, often ridiculously funny. But when you start getting the backstories and see how it all worked out, and he painted me some insane helmets. So I raced Dakar with his helmet, and also won the Baja 1000 with his helmet. So pretty proud to wear those things. It's kind of cool to have your own custom helmet design and a painter that, put what you wanted on your lid and made it cool. So thanks again for Jerry's help on all those different endeavors. So hopefully everything is sticking. Looks like it's staying together, right? Somebody said it cuts out, but I'm claiming that's your connection, not mine, because my light isn't blinking over here. So I'm going to head right to the questions that I have here. And hopefully I didn't turn that thing off. I don't want to turn this thing off. I need to leave this one going. And I don't have paper, so I can't really think the question. So one thing that's important, you want to keep us going, support us somehow, way, shape, or form. Probably the best thing you can do is throw us some thumbs ups, because those are Facebook's going to make their own currency pretty soon, and a thumbs up might be worth something. Probably a little less than a Google ad click, but whatever. You can click through Amazon. If you're looking at one of our tests on Dirt Bike Test and you see an Amazon link at the bottom, go ahead and click through. That'll give us a little chunk of something. And like a commission, it helps. Tell a friend. That's probably the best thing you do. Tell a friend. Let us try to grow. And if we ever get better on the t-shirt market, maybe that logo that you saw earlier might be put on a t-shirt, and we can sell more t-shirts. But that's a great way to not make any money. Wait, we should become a t-shirt company. That's a stupid idea. I won't do it. So anyways, that's how you can support us. Basically, just share this, tell people about it, listen to it, listen to the archive shows, listen to the new shows that aren't here yet, all that stuff. And right to the question. So Chance McCamish asked, wraparound or flag style handguards? And so everybody knows the difference. Like the wraparound would be called the classic Barkbuster design, and the flag handguards are ones that don't extend out to the side. And I've run so many different kinds of handguards because there's a lot of really cool different innovations out there. I mean, I even remember a guy that was making these literally aluminum things that clamped on your bar pretty robustly and a big carbon beam, so he didn't actually have to have the wraparound handguards, and you would put a flag on them, and they were made out of materials that would disintegrate like over time. I don't know if they were having things, but it was a guy had a really good idea. And then but so in the early days, the big scare with Barkbusters, and it still is today to a certain extent, is like people feel like they're going to put their hand's going to come off the handlebars, and then it's going to be inside there, and bad things are going to happen. And I can see that happening. It's not happened to me. I used to desert race with wraparound handguards because I just wanted to have the maximum amount of protection for my levers and throttle and all that kind of stuff. And that added a like one extra layer of stuff. So I tended to run most of the time with the wraparound as opposed to the flags. And then I started riding for I started running a company called Mare Plastic, and there was always a Chirby's and the regular, but there's a company called Mare, and they made these triple thick. They made handguards for me out of skid plate material, and then we just had to figure out a good way to bolt them onto the. We had to use extra long bolts, so it was almost like flag style with high rigidity and stuff. And now the problem has always been, how do you mount those things? Because when you make them really strong and mount them to the levers and the clutch lever, and back then the brake lever or the hydraulic reservoir or whatever it is, if you hit those things, then you're going to break that part, and that's what you're trying to protect. So then companies started clamping things to the handlebars in better ways. And then that was when it was just a straight, before the oversized bar wasn't a problem. But then when you had the oversized bars with all the different tapers on them, it became hard to clamp on them. And so then they started mounting the triple clamps. And there's all different kinds of options and stuff for it. So in reality, for you, it's kind of a personal decision. It's like, what am I really trying to accomplish here? Am I trying to be, if I was going more the lightweight version, I would be looking at the flag style. If I was looking more for protection, I'd look for wraparound. And then it's a matter of attaching things and how much space do you have in your handlebars? How much real estate do you have? I run flex bars on my bikes. So the bark buster or the handguard has to pivot with the handguard. So that's another concern, because I want those things to move a little bit, and if you make it all rigid, so they make one that actually pivots on the handlebar. So lots of different options there to consider. Chance, hopefully that answers your question. I'm pretty sure it did. Probably made you more confused, but just lots of different options. We have some tests of handguards on the website. I'm sure there's someplace. You just search handguards. That'll work out, and then you can search handguards on Google, and they'd be even more thoroughly confused. So I'm more of a fan of the wraparounds, just because in case my bike tips over, it protects my stuff. JB, JAYBEE on YouTube asked, he says, my 800 XC, and he's talking about a Triumph adventure bike, sucked off-road. He said, the CRF 1000 Africa Twin must be worse. And I replied back to him and said, no, I think your bike did suck more off-road, because the Triumph, and they've come a couple steps since the last time I actually spent a lot of time on one. Excellent motor, 3-cylinder motor, pretty cool. It's a top-heavy motor. It's kind of a rev-happy motor. So like some of those things don't really lend themselves to adventure bike riding. And the thing with the Triumph was always like the ergonomic package of that bike was so tight and cramped. It was meant to be more like a sport bike where you're kind of elbows tucked down, and it was really hard to stand up. You'd stand up and everything was too close together. So that's probably what made that bike not so good off-road. The Honda, you stand on it and it kind of feels like a dirt bike. So right away there, it has a big advantage. The motor, it's torquier, smoother. The suspension is definitely better. Honda did a really good job on that suspension until KTM came out with the 1090 with the PDS shock. There was nothing even close. And yes. And then shortly after that, he said, is a DR650 a better dirt bike? Yes. Yeah. Anytime you're going less weight, you're probably going to have a better, quote, dirt bike. But you're talking adventure bikes, and is a DR650 a better adventure bike? That's a question for my good friend Baja Diaries. He answers every question on that's given to me about 650 sized motorcycles, because he likes the XR650. So yes, that's the answer to that question. So Chihuahua 143 asked, any thoughts on choosing between a Husqvarna FE350 and a KTM 350 EXCF? I'm leaning towards the KTM just to stand out from my group of riders. How did you find a group of riders that isn't just all orange? Like, that's what I want to know. I mean, I like to stand out. That's why I'm going to say the word Husabergs. I liked Husaberg because I was different. The bikes were different. And we can get into what's wrong with Husabergs and why they're gone now, but later. So if you're going to get a KTM to stand out, I think you're going to do pretty good. But the biggest difference between those two bikes is the rear suspension. The Husky has a link. The KTM is PDS. And I think I prefer the PDS. It's just simple. It's easier to work on. They work really good. And I feel like in some ways I can get away with a wider range of, if you have the right spring on it, it seems like I can get away with a setting that'll a better overall setting. I don't really know how to explain it, because the thing I'm going to say about the linkage is the linkage, if you're going to pound hoops over here and then all of a sudden ride on smooth single track, I think the linkage, you wouldn't have to adjust the clickers on the shock as much to have like a baseline performance. So hopefully, that's the they're both good. But like I said, the difference is in that. And then there's a little bit of difference in kind of power delivery, power character because of the airbox. And there's a little bit difference in the chassis feel because of the suspension. And then there's a little bit difference feel in the clutch, because the way the clutch is activated is different between the two bikes. But I don't, they're the kind of same. Is there an advantage to one to the other? I think there's a little bit more gas tank options available for the KTM, and maybe more plastic and stuff like that. But I just find the KTM a little bit easier to maintain, mostly because of the shock. Just less parts. I bet you it's probably a little bit lighter, but you're not going to feel it too much. So yeah, how did you find a group of riders that wasn't just a bunch of orange bikes? That's what you could do is whatever color one you get, just buy a different set of Acerbis plastic for your bike. They make all different kinds of cool color combos. Get your own graphics, and then you can make your bike look like anything. Like San Felipe Bob, and he'll probably post it up 2 or 3 times during the course of this discussion. He has a Kawahusa Husky. I don't know. He made his kid's Kawi look like a Husky, like ridiculously, even though he couldn't just buy a Husky 65. He had to get a Kawi and turn in a Husky. So that's how you catch up. Catch up with San Felipe Bob. You probably have 18 questions to answer, and I already filleted you before you got a chance to come live with the show. So another thing that we are working on testing out here is we have the Yamaha WR 450, which we're doing long-term on, and we got our hands on the WR4 or the YZ 450 FX. Cub reporter Trevor Hunter took them up to Utah with his dad and a couple of their friends, and they went riding over logs and did what he called a whole lot of first and second gear riding, which is like what I like to do, but maybe those desert GP racing Goonies aren't really good at that stuff. I saw pictures of the bikes on the side. I saw them stuck on trees. I saw them stuck in snow. But so how? And somebody asked which one is better. How's it going? And kind of those Trevor. I talked to him briefly before the show, and I said, "How's it going?" He said, "I like the FX better." And so he's a young racer, likes a little bit more aggressive power. And then, of course, his dad liked the WR better. Older, fatter. Sorry, Craig. Seasoned. And I think, and the biggest difference is that we had in the settings, the motors are kind of the same, is the WR had an FMFQ on it, and the FX had the GYTR pipe on it. And so it makes it a little more snappy and a little more responsive. They did not play with the maps as much as I thought they would to kind of tune the bikes around. But globally, they felt the suspension kind of acted the same, which is a big, that's one of the big things, has always been the difference between those two bikes. Yet and then the weight difference wasn't as much as they kind of thought it was going to be. You could feel the WR acting a little bit heavier, but not like in the old days where the WR kind of felt like a tank. So when I get back down south, we are going to go ride those two bikes and drill down and get the exact answers, and that'll be good. We can answer that one a little more. And if I go farther up here, I don't like to say bad words, but Fukum asked, would this be a good bike for a first timer? And he's asking about a KTM 350 EXC. And so I kind of explained it a little bit on the post on the YouTube video that, you know, when you're talking about like a first timer, you kind of really don't know where anything's at. You know, first timer, you think about the first time you ever had to use a clutch, you know, and twist the throttle and you know, shift with your foot. Those are all first timer questions. And all motorcycles kind of operate like that. The only way you can deviate from that is get something with an automatic clutch, you know, like a Honda 50 or a KLX 110, or buy a bike with a Recluse in it, and then you don't have to worry about the clutch. So I said, you know, the only real other characteristic that's going to really put you into beginner bike mode is like a really torquey, heavy, you know, slow revving motor, so that it doesn't snap out from underneath you, and or it's not stalling all the time. So as a first timer, I think a KTM 350 is a great bike. At least you're not telling me I want to get my first dirt bike, and I go, well, what's that? I'm gonna get a BMW 1250 Adventure because, you know, I want to go off road dirt bike. Don't do that. So yeah, I think a KTM 350 is a good first time bike. Maybe not the best one, but if you are really planning on sticking with it and going to grow into the sport, that's a great choice. Probably better than a KTM 350 SX. Maybe not as good as a CRF 230 250L, you know? So it's all perspective, man. It's all perspectives. So one last one here. Actually, I got one other thing too. Hello, DBT staff. I'm interested in a dual sport that will compete at B-level enduro hare scrambles in New Mexico. It's been since 2006 since I put any time in the dirt. I owned a new 2003 Gas 200 EXC, first dirt bike. It was my first dirt bike as an adult at 32 years old at the time. It had a fine motor but horrible suspension. Yeah, sounds good. Let's see. But it taught me to be smooth and fast chasing A-riders in the hills around Riverside, California. I got to do a demo for 3 hours on a 2006 Husaberg 450. Good bike. Yeah. In 2006, it was a really good. Well, wait a minute. 2006. Ugh. Yeah, that's a real Husaberg. That's got a good motor in it. But it's kind of like an older KTM. It's like a KTM RFS bike. And I fell in love with it to a degree, but I could, because I could keep pace with guys he's talking about his racing here. It blew my mind how much it chugged and lofted in the front wheel over obstacles. That's a Husaberg. Let's see. So I want to find something in between these two bikes from yesteryear. My choices are a 2018 Husky 250 FE or KTM 250 EXCF, or a 2018 Husky FE 450. I can't use other brands because I'm 4.5 hours from their dealership, and I can get a fine deal on these particular machines. I'm 5'10", 165 pounds with riding gear on. Thank you for your time. I'm a fan of your site. Regards, JD. And this is what I asked him when I responded to him online. I said, why don't you get a 350? That would be the perfect spot in between those two particular bikes. And the 250 is not bad, but it's not going to have that chug and torque. The 250 is a little revvy and buzzy. You're going to have to spin that thing up. When you go to the 450, that's going to have plenty of power and everything, but it's not going to be light and nimble like your 200 was. So you're kind of, the 200 two-stroke is exactly like a 350 four-stroke. It's something that just slated right into this really perfect displacement that kind of blends what you're looking for on either side, but it's not really great on the power, but it's better on the torque, and it just fits in this niche. just like the 200cc two-stroke is. But there's no class for it. Like there's technically not, quote, a racing class. But at your age, you're riding the vet class. So what do you care about class? So if you're thinking about racing, you're always going to want something that's a little bit faster. Given those bikes, I would maybe lean towards the 450, and it'll make a better dual sport bike when you're doing, out in the roads doing the dual sport stuff. But also, and from my riding experience in Mexico, you guys have lots of dirt roads and stuff, and it's more desert-y, depending on where you're at there. There's definitely some trails and stuff, but it's not like you're back east where I would just go straight to the 250, or someplace up in your Pacific Northwest where 250 and, you really don't need a 450 or a 500 out here. So hopefully that answers your thing. Thanks for riding Husaberg. Yep, 4-stroke force. Let's see. And so my one tech tip of the week is going to be for all you people that are slipping clutches. I'm going to explain a little bit about the mechanics of a clutch, and I'm going to explain something about the theory of the clutch. So in the way that we teach, I teach that your clutch is a power amplifier. So you in the real world, you shouldn't use your clutch to reduce power of your motor. Like if you want to reduce power of your motor, just turn the throttle backwards, roll the throttle off. That'll take care of the power. Don't slip your clutch and hold your throttle. So because all you're doing is you're building heat inside the motor. It's hard on the bike. So don't abuse your clutch. If you're going slower than first gear, of course you have to slip your clutch so you don't stall. Or you can just buy a recluse clutch and it does it all mechanically for you, and it's good. And it's only for old guys. So if you're young, don't even think about a recluse clutch. It's just old guys only. I think you literally have to be 28 years old before you're allowed to buy one. It's kind of like that. They have that. It's kind of like can't drink till you're 21. You can't run a recluse till you're 28. So, but back to the clutch thing. But when you start slipping your clutch and you start beating your clutch up, it builds heat in there, and the clutch plates and everything expands a little bit. And if your clutch is adjusted properly, and I find that most riders do not have their clutch adjusted properly, it expands, and it either takes play out of the cable or it loosens the play. It makes it tighter or looser depending on whether it's, quote, a push or a pull clutch. And if you have a hydraulic clutch, it stays the same adjustment you always left it at, and you can't feel this kind of thing. So there's and everybody asks, like, what's the advantages and disadvantages of hydraulic clutch? Hydraulic clutch, you can't feel your clutch getting hot. But this weekend in our classes, we do a lot of stuff that's slower in first gear, and we had a couple different situations. One was on a push clutch and one was on a pull clutch, and the riders got the clutches very hot because they were reducing power with it. They didn't trust the torque of the motorcycle, and the clutch expanded, and one of them made an adjustment to their lever. So the one that got loose, as it got hot, he adjusted the cable, took the free play back out to where it was not much free play, and then kept riding around, and the clutch cooled down, and then it was slipping all the time because it was holding the clutch partially in. The other guy, his clutch heated up and got completely tight, and he didn't notice it, and he kept riding and kept it spinning, because it was pulling the clutch a quarter of the way in while he was riding, and as it got hotter and hotter, you can't even tell because that lever is completely out, and he didn't really notice it slipping because he was slipping it quite a bit himself to get it there. So slipping was just kind of normal, and it also overheated and smoked the clutch. So when you're doing that kind of stuff with your clutch, when you're abusive with your clutch, remember it heats up, and depending on what it's doing, your lever could get loose and sloppy, and if it does, it's telling you your clutch is hot. It could get tight and start slipping. Then you need to loosen it up, with the adjustment. If you're on a cable clutch, like I said, with the hydraulic clutch, it self-compensates. Every time it pushes back out, it adjusts the fluid, so you can still have some free play. when you're smoking your clutch. So be aware of that kind of stuff. Pay attention. And the worst thing about that is not that you smoked a clutch, it's that now you have a whole bunch of clutch material that is floating around inside of your oil that's going into your piston rod, getting squirted up in your cylinder. It's getting mashed between your gears. That's what a good oil filter is for. So, yeah, don't slip your clutch. Use it as a power amplifier when you need to. So that is my list of questions. I am going to dive into what we have on the forum right now. I'm sure Bob answered most of them already, right? Did you get them all, Bob? I know you came in late, you know. I won Baja. Yes, I won Baja in with Johnny Campbell. No, Johnny Campbell won Baja, and I rode his motorcycle for part of the way. When it was dark. I rode it when it was dark, and that was in 1998. We beat Ivan Stewart. Yeah, so we were faster than the trucks. Kids T-shirts. I think I answered that, John. Yeah, when we win the lottery. Let's see. If you go to Wraparound, get Highway Dirt Bikes Handguards. They are good handguards. Those guys make some quality stuff. They make the really bitchin' buttons that we have on our rally training bikes. Thanks, Jerry, for the laughs. Back in the day, for sure, I have a few Racer X Illustrated magazines from the newsprint days with some creative ads in there. Not glossy and not PC. I miss that stuff. Hey, James, you can follow Fuck You Racing on Facebook, and they have new T-shirts every once in a while, limited edition things. And JB Black is still there. Let's see. A couple people are fond of the Highway Dirt Bike stuff. Big bolts from Highway Dirt Bikes. See? Everybody likes the Highway Dirt Bike stuff. That's good. Yes, flex bars do rock, and they flex. And my wrists thank them every day. Trailer full of beverages. So the Trail Tail, so that's the name of the company that makes the trailer I showed the picture of earlier. It's a motorcycle trailer. It bolts through the swing arm. Has a swing arm and a pivot, and it has a shock on the back. And we were testing it last year. They've lightened up the design a little bit, but it's still really heavy duty, which is good because you wouldn't want something like that to break. And I probably carried more beer in that than anything else. For my running club, when they're running out in the hills and stuff, I can very easily and quickly throw beers in there and ride out, and it's like a giant cooler. But it's a great way to pack trail working tools. In reality, like at the event I was at the Tour Tech Rally, I would say a fair majority of people ride their motorcycles to these events. And you think about it, you carry so much stuff, your camping equipment, and generally when you get to the event, you unload and park your stuff, and then your bike's a little bit lighter. You can go out on these different group rides and everything. But if you have the Trail Tail, you can carry, like, and this is the way I like to adventure ride. You can carry, like, bigger tent, nicer mattress, and real pillow, and then you don't have to pack so densely and tightly. And the weight isn't up high on the back; it's down low and behind you. And the way the bike handles, it's just like a car that has a trailer on it. You can't start shaking and twisting really quick because that weight kind of has some effect on the handling. And your turning radius is compromised a little bit. You can feel the weight behind you a little bit, not as much as you think. But I've taken that thing in some pretty gnarly stuff, like really good Jeep roads, and was really impressed with how well it handled and stuff. Like I said, it's a trailer, works like a trailer. But if I was going someplace and I wanted to go and park and set up a little camp and then go riding, it's an awesome option. And I'm gonna use it to carry a bunch of stuff with me back down to Nevada, and that way I have more capacity. So thanks to those guys for giving us one to test, and we're kind of giving them some feedback, and fixing up there. What's easier than joining the Too Much Fun Club, Bob? I actually emailed Paul, and I texted Paul Ospo the other day. I have not received a response back because I think he's a lumberjack and he lives out in the wood. What is your preferred handlebar width? Dennis asks. I don't actually know the number, but I think it's like a little over 31 and not quite 32. It's funny, I hopped on a guy's bike and he had the full 32-inch bars, and if they felt wide to me. And when I'm riding, I'm always kind of up against the edge of the grips. So, but I don't like really narrow handlebars. I used to shorten my bars when we used to race through the trees back in the day, and I never liked cutting them down that way because I felt like when I really needed the leverage of the handlebars, it didn't help me out. But man, there was some guys like Scott Summers who used to go through the trees and their bars were like 26 inches or something ridiculous, 28. Let's see. Scrolling down, PDS simple maintenance, easy going over rocks and obstructions. That is. Hey, who brought that up? Mark, thank you. So my main reason for PDS is when I hop over logs, a linkage doesn't come and impede my progress. And I've tried those glide plates and stuff, that this glide plate, skid plates, and they help quite a bit. But man, I don't know. And just even the way that the PDS kind of, I don't know, everything about it, I like it. I've always been a fan. Let's see. How does Bob catch up? Hopefully he's caught up. Tap the screen and scroll up. Let's see. I got 2 thumbs up. Dave, thanks for the 2 thumbs up. And thank your kid for finally getting that Suzuki RMZ 250 test up. We put that, so on the website, there's a new RMZ 250 test up on the website. If you want to know what we think about it, that's at least what Ryan and Trevor think about it. I don't think I got a chance to ride that bike, but I'm too old to ride a 250 motocross bike, if that makes any sense at all. Let's see. Oh, yeah, now I learned something. Whoa, look at all those happy faces flying up. You guys are going nuts. Stop it. I wish they were worth pennies. They'd be falling off on the table. I'd be picking them up off the ground. Let's see. Once it's gone, it's gone. Bob caught up. That's good. Victor the Popsicle Man. What do you think about a BMW GS 650 as a daily commuter and sporadic off-road riding? I think if your sporadic is really sporadic, then it's a good bike. It's a good street going single, very comfortable, just lumbers down the road. Off road, it shows its weight. It makes a KLR feel light and agile. And we're not going to ask Baja Diaries Mark about that. Let's see. My EXC didn't turn well on a track, but went straight and fine in the desert. That's what David Nitson's bike did. What is a clutch? I don't use one, I think, at all. Victor, don't you have a CR500? And what's up with everybody like throwing these CR500s and KX 250 and 500 motors and aluminum chassis lately? It seems like my Instagram feed, and probably in my Facebook feeds, probably because I said 2-stroke and all of a sudden it's going to feed me everything 2-stroke. Everybody's stuffing these older 2-stroke motors into these new chassis. And I've ridden some of them, and they vibrate like they're going out of style. I don't think I've ridden one that works as good as the original steel frame those bikes came out of, especially with the suspension technology. You can get some good suspension on a KX500 or a CR500 now. You can have someone that really knows what they're doing work on a shock or get modern day shock and forks on one of those bikes, and way better than like wedging it into an aluminum frame so you get the latest plastics and stuff on it. But I probably saw 7 or 8 of them today, and I love the old 2-strokes, but yeah, when am I going to get my Beta 200? That's what I want to know. That's the 2-stroke I want, and I'm going to go ride the new KTM TPI bike, so the 250 and 300 XC. and the 150 XCW coming up here pretty soon. Actually, back up here in Washington at a works race. So I'm not going to mention what Victor just said on the post. Now I've got a check mark and 2 thumbs up. I'm not sure. Let's see. No Fear started as a t-shirt company. Yeah, they weren't they weren't an editorial outlet. If I had their money, we'd have employees and we would get at least 3 times as much stuff done. Let's see. Oh, the signal froze. Yep, sure it did. My internet's perfect here. 30 people. Yes, 30 people. Lots of things. Contact Regina to get a hold of Paul. I don't have her contact. Bob, send that to me. I appreciate comment is what you said on the 500s. Why, you building one in your garage? Did I save you from cutting a perfectly good 4-stroke chassis away? Let's see. Feed is getting a little frozen. Yep, it's probably because there's so many people hitting that thumbs up button, and now we're in trouble. Any word on the XCTPI? Well, it's amazing. I just said that. Chris, who is a top fan and likes to point that out. What do you got to do to get a top fan thing? Is it like a badge you can buy, or you just have to put up with me for so long before it works? But appreciate you, top fans. Uh-oh. You guys are starting to blow up the thumbs up again. So I haven't ridden the XC. I actually haven't talked to anybody who has. I should have poked a little farther with the KTM guys and seen, you usually can get a kind of little heads up on what they're really doing. But I'm convinced that they're going to have to make that bike a little bit more aggressive. And the fact that the SX, the 2-stroke SX, does not have a carburetor probably means that either they have a ton of carburetors sitting on the shelf somewhere that they've already purchased. I kind of doubt that's the case. Or they're still working on getting that technology to be quite a bit more aggressive. So we will see. $50 for a top fan? I'm not getting any of that. I'm getting dehydrated here. So let's see. Hey, Trevor, nice of you to join. Why don't you answer all the WR450 questions that were posted up that I can't answer because you have the bike? Yeah, and I saw your thing about you didn't have the code right. Good job. That's you get your little cub reporter badge, and everything's good. Okay, so I think we've routed through. Does anybody have any more questions, or you want me to just tell a story? You could just go to Jimmy's story time. I need a co-host here to so I can actually take a breath and then eat the rest of my pizza. Hey, my internet just froze. Good thing. Dave Chase built some of the fastest KX500s that I'd ever ridden, for sure. And Eric Krippa built by far and away the fastest CR500 and quite possibly the fastest motorcycle I ever rode. It was the Barkmaster CR500. And Barkmaster is a patented and coined term. I raced it at Mammoth Mountain in, good grief, I don't know when. And the only reason I went there was to pull hole shots. And that bike, it was so easy. All I had to do was get it off that concrete pad and just rip up the hill. I was a gear higher than everybody else going up that hill. And that was when 4-strokes were just coming around. And I remember Dubach used to be the guy on the starts. And I just fed it to him. And he hated it because 4-strokes were so much, because they pulled gears longer. But, when I could start and I could literally went off the pad in second, clicked to the third, and never let off. And it was like a flag on the back of that thing. So let's see. What did Chris Parker just say? I'll come out and host one if you think I'm remotely interesting. Chris, you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Actually, Chris is from Rottweiler Performance. If you are interested in making your adventure bike more powerful, which means you have more money than brain cells, you go see Chris. And Chris will tell you how to make it the most powerful bike, and then come and see me, and I'll tell you how to tune it back into something that's rideable and gets traction. So he's been doing all this. He's got a new toy. It's like a 3-dimensional mapping thing. I've been seeing all of his Rottweiler posts where he's making a 3D blueprint of his KTM 790, which I rode. No, I didn't ride yours. Did I ride yours? I don't think we switched bikes. Oh, because your triple clamps are falling off. That's right. But we tightened them back down using a chisel and a screwdriver or whatever I use when we're out on the trail, and that was good. But yes, Chris, if I ever make it down there in Costa Mesa, we'll do one from your shop, because your shop is Super Sano, or you can ride your ass out to Nevada and we can do it out there. Let's see, the time I beat Danny on a 200. No, I beat Danny on a 125. And that would be Danny Hamill, and it was only because I'm pretty sure it was a super tight technical race around cactuses, and I go around him and he went through them. Just had Tom Morgan rebuild my 500, no vibration. Correct. There's a lot of the good tuners that know, basically, you want to make a 500 run good, get the crank balance. Just make sure everything is Sano inside those things, and it makes a huge difference. But then they work their way out of balance pretty quickly. But that would be my first, actually any 2-stroke, if you've got a good guy that builds your cranks. And there's a guy, Competitive Crankworks. If you ever need crank work done, he's up in Idaho now. He used to be down in Orange County, and he builds most of the factory team's cranks, even on the 4-strokes today. And he's done a bunch of them for me on my 2-strokes. On my KTM 200s, I've had to build the cranks a couple times on those, and for my brother-in-law and stuff, and they're perfect. So if you ever look him up, Competitive Crankshafts, if you're looking to get your crank set up. Will get me set up in the dyno room. Perfect acoustics, and nobody can hear me. Yep, see, Chris, you're special. And he has good tequila. He has good taste in tequila, and so do I. And usually we have tequila, but I only have 2 bottles of tequila I'm not very fond of right now, so we're not doing that. And I'm sure everybody would like to hear me shut up. So hold on, I know how to shut me up. That means time for another, right? So got 10 more minutes of this. We better figure. We blew Jimmy up. You guys wrecked my internets? Well, a few minutes ago, but I'm back. This is Hams, and it's warm, by the way. It's the same temperature as my motorhome is right now. Promise. Okay. Is this the first show we're going to get done in under an hour? You guys better come up with questions. Where's all the what I could do is I could go on the SoCal Dual Sport Riders forum. That's Cameron's little group that he's got going there, and answer like 9 out of 10 questions. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm answering one of those questions. Hey, I'm thinking about getting a blank, and I want to know if it's the best bike for me. Okay, not kidding. That one comes up like at least 6 times a day. And so what I know about you is your name is like Fred or Tom or John or Susie, and you're going to get this bike that you've decided is the bike for you. And then so 16 of your other Toms and Freds and Susies say, oh, get this one. And I'm not really sure where that comes from. It's either the bike that they have, that they want you to be part of the club, or it's their buddy's bike they're trying to sell you because they want their buddy to get the bike that they have because they want their buddy to be part of the club and they don't even know you. And then there's the other option of that guy works at a motorcycle dealer and his job is to sit on this forum and try to sell motorcycles to everybody, which I've seen that work pretty well too. But that's why you need someone like me. So now I'm turning, it's all about me. I hate to do this every single time, but I want you to be able to go read a honest editorial opinion review about a bike. So after you're done reading it, you can feel like hey, I think I know something about that bike, and this bike is for me, or maybe it's not for me. That's the idea here. It's not good or bad. Like if I was going to give you an opinion on a 19 WR250F, which I will in a moment, but I can't give you that opinion because I haven't ridden it. I don't have enough time to ride every single bike, and we like to ride things before we tell you how they work. But I can tell you that that bike is very similar to the, you know what? Wait, I did ride that bike. Oh, I forget. I ride so many bikes, I forget. I rode that bike back east. I rode it back at Randy Hawkins' ranch. So yeah, I will tell you about that bike in a second. I have to just like let the hard drive crunch. But so back to the question is like, I want to get this bike, or I'm thinking about this bike. Hopefully you've done done the research, and you've found credible sources to give you information. And it's tough to find these days because there's so many blowhards out there that literally just go to the intros and it's like, yeah, it's good, and then, but hey, wait, if I'm going to be a credible source, I got to say something bad about it. Oh, I'm not telling you the truth. So I don't like the seat foam. That's always a good one. Yeah, the seat suck. You know, um, and then they'll wait till they get away, and then they go, didn't have enough power. That kind of stuff. Well, what did you do to it to fix the seat foam or try to get some more power? Or were you actually turning the throttle all the way at your whatever ability level? I mean, I've seen it both ways. I've seen, young motocross kids come out and test an off-road bike where they're like trying to rev it like a motocross bike and never shifting it. And they're saying it doesn't have any power, and they're not even appreciating where the power is. And I've seen guys that I'd be hard pressed to qualify them as a novice riding a competition type bike, riding around shifting gears before the power valve on the 4-stroke opens, because that's what they think too sometimes, before it gets on the pipe, and then telling you it doesn't have enough power. And they're basically walking around with these big giant elephant ears at some of the more credible journalists, listening to what they're saying, trying to gain their information. And then it's like, you can go find those guys too, hopefully. But when you're new to this sport and you don't really know, and you can find a group that talks to you like this, like for instance, the SoCal Dual Sport Riders is a good group, and there's large amount of good information in there, but same thing, there's a lot of bad, so you need to know how to have a filter and figure out where you're getting your stuff. So, that's my little rant for tonight. I'm done talking about the other things. So I saw a couple questions pop up here. Let's see. So we could have a audience at Rottweiler Performance. That's good. You know what? If you even did that, I would even do a how to ride better demonstration in the parking lot, which means I pop wheelies, do skids, and ride with one hand on the handlebars. Not a stunt rider, but I play one of the movies. Let's see. Opinions on the YZ250X. Kyle, I think that is an excellent motorcycle. And if you read, we have an impression of it up on the site for sure. There's like a riding impression. I think there's even a video. It's a good bike, and it has a Kickstarter. And I don't really know how to operate those that well anymore. I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of sick of kick-starting anything. And if there's one problem I have with that bike, that's it. And now, we talked about it last week, there's a guy that's making an electric start kit for one of those things. So that could bring that thing into the modern era. I really hope Yamaha is working on some sort of new 2-stroke technology. But at the same time, there's people that love that bike for the simplicity. Because of the Kickstarter, there is no battery. And it kickstarts very easy, but it's simple. The bike's simple, easy to work on. It's less expensive because of that. It could be a little bit lighter, but somehow KTM manufactures their stuff out of helium, and I don't know how they make their bikes so light. But YZ250X, and the other thing about the X, they've done a really good job tuning the suspension, and more than you would think, what they've done to the power, the slightly lower compression, the different power valve shape and activation, and also the something else they did in the motor that changed it. But the power delivery is so perfect for off-road. It doesn't tame it, it just makes it better. It's a really good bike. And then Torben asked me opinion on a 19 WR250F. Torben, that is a really good bike. We've had tons of success on those things with long-term durability. We have a lot of, if you look on the site, we've torn those things apart, raced them in 24-hour races, abused them. And that bike hasn't changed a whole lot. It's probably going to go through a big revision next year and become more like the current ones with a more a narrower chassis and all the stuff, all the updates of the YZ and the YZ FX. I don't even think the 250FX got those changes just yet. No, they didn't. This year was the 450. So next year, we suspect that the 250FX and WR will get all those updates, and then you can put the ECU in it. You can program it with the phone app, and that makes it all that much better. I am the new super hunky. David, I take that as a compliment. I worked under Rick Simon at Dirt Bike Magazine when I was an intern, and if I could only be such a horrible writer and tell really good stories about all of my failures with the storytelling that he had. Rick was an awesome guy. He actually stood up for me a couple times. I raced against his son quite a bit in the desert, John Rudder, and I want to write Monkey Butt 2, the sequel, because man, our industry is like a soap opera, and it's only getting more interesting right now. But that would require writing a book, and I like talking about it stuff. Let's see. Try the Pastrana bend. We're talking about handlebars now. Actually, I got a lot of handlebar questions this weekend at the Tour Tech Rally. What does the pastrami bar have to offer, and what's the difference in rhyme and reason in the handlebars? The pastrami bar, it's like a Kate's bar, except it's made out of meat. Let's see. I have a friend who bought a 19KX250F. He put a K&N oil filter in it. The oil filter came apart, went through the motor, and locked it up. Have you heard anything about these oil filters? No, Johnny, I haven't. These are those ones that just kind of go south. So now you heard about it, and you had a friend. So was it a real K&N oil filter? Because I use their air filters in some of my trucks and stuff, and I've always had good luck with their stuff. There's a guy. Look up Best Rest products. Best Rest. It's David Peterson, who has a company. They sell lots of different things. And someplace on the internet, he did an oil filter test where they were actually pumping sludge and stuff through oil filters. And he has interesting data on when the bypass valve opens up. And there's really no reason for an oil filter to come apart. That would be really strange. I would like to know more about that. Pictures are always welcome, and sometimes you can find that it was, I know how you can make an oil filter come apart. Those paper ones, like I've seen people clean the paper ones off with a really aggressive solvent, and it deteriorates the stuff that's holding the paper, the fibers that are holding the paper together. I've seen people do that, and I'm like, really, you're going to clean and put that $1.99 filter back in? Ask your friends some questions, because they always like to blame it on somebody else. That's what I always did. Let's see. I saw the electric start available on Yamaha's website. Yamaha US? Send me a link, Jesse. That'd be awesome. Pastrami bend is weird. Let's see. Chance. Roll bars. Drastic. Yeah. So we're talking about handlebars. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Beto. Hey, Beto. Let's see. Oil filters come apart when installed backwards. That could be. Thank you for doing these. I really enjoy them. Glad you enjoy them. There we go. Right on, George. You know what? You're better than Gabe. I think Gabe's getting fired when I get back home, but we'll see. That's why there's no Tech Talk Taco Tuesdays up on YouTube, because somebody was supposed to come and by and help me, and I didn't have time, and then I didn't even have time to upload the files onto the computer I have with me and do what I have to do. So okay, we managed to make it to 8:02. So I went through a beer and a quarter. Enjoyed all your questions tonight. Hopefully we'll see you next week. I have no idea where I'm going to be next week, but I think I'm going to take my little thingy, my little Roku thingy that I got here, and I'll have my phone with me. So if I have an internet connection, I will try to do a show. It might be from the wild remotes of who knows where, or maybe I'll be back in Nevada in the heat. But I'm supposed to go riding Thursday and Friday up here with some local guys that have some really good trails, and I'll try to take some pictures and put them on my what account? Oh yeah, the Instagrams. Yeah, I'm going to put all those photos up on the Instagrams. That way you can be jealous of where I'm riding and where I'm eating at Kate's bar. Thanks to Kate for keeping me supplied. Beers to you. Thanks for TruerTech for having me up here in the Pacific Northwest, and we will see you. Hopefully not like that stalker guy that's always trying to meet up with me, but I'll see you out on the trail. Cheers.